Welcome to the Neon Noise Podcast, your home for learning ways to attract more traffic to your website, generate more leads, convert more leads into customers, and build stronger relationships with your customers. And now, your hosts, Justin Johnson and Ken Franzen.
Hey, Neon Noise Nation. This is the Neon Noise Podcast, where we decode marketing and sales topics to help you grow your business. Hopefully everyone is having a great day. This is Justin Johnson, and with me, I have my co-host, Mr. Ken Franzen. How is everything going today, Ken?
Everything's great today, Justin. How about yourself?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you very much. I am excited to learn more about social media and how to use it to get additional leads with our featured guest. Today, we have on Corinna Essa. She is known internationally as the go-to person when it comes to social media marketing. She is an author and the CEO of Social Media Worldwide. Corinna has written a #1 international bestseller titled Money on Demand, the 16 Fastest Ways to Becoming a Millionaire Online. She has helped thousands of people and businesses from Australia, the UK, New Zealand, UAE, Switzerland, and Cyprus get consistent returns from their social media marketing efforts. Corinna, it sounds like you've got quite a bit going on. Welcome to Neon Noise.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, do me a favor and fill in the gaps on anything that I may have missed and share with us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, I started a few years ago, back in 2011, my journey online. My dream initially when I was growing up was to become a television producer. That's the only thing I wanted to do. My father is a journalist, and I always thought that his job was just fascinating. He had a radio station at some point. He had a newspaper as well. And I just thought that the media industry was fascinating. So I thought, well, I'll do the same and I'll become a TV producer. And that's really what I wanted to do all my life, really, growing up. And I studied TV production in London, and I got a few jobs in the television industry. I worked for free a lot because in that industry, you kind of have to work for free in order to get a foot in the door unless you have contacts. And so I did that. I worked for free or for very little money most of the time. And I managed to work in different countries. I worked in Greece. I worked in France. I worked in the UK. And right in the middle of the financial crisis, so it was 2011, I was a production assistant for a television commercial company. So they used to produce a lot of TV commercials. And so I was working as an assistant producer there, and they were downsizing the company during the financial crisis. So a lot of jobs basically eliminated, and eventually so was mine. And the problem was that at the time, when I got made redundant, everyone in every industry was basically making everyone redundant. So it was really hard to find another job. People would laugh at you if you would just submit an application. They'd be like, you've come at the wrong time, and now's not the time to ask for a job. So I knew then and there that it was going to be really difficult for me to find a job. I mean, let alone in the television industry, but in any industry. I mean, people couldn't get jobs as a waitress at the time. And things haven't really improved in Greece, unfortunately. And so for many years, my brother used to tell me when I was working in the television industry to just have an internet business, because he has an internet business that does really well. He wrote, in fact, a New York Times best-selling book, The Laptop Millionaire, which you might have heard of. And so for many years, he used to tell me, just forget about that, just have an internet business. But I just couldn't picture myself doing that. I felt I wasn't qualified. I felt that it was just kissing goodbye to my dreams and to all the hard work and effort that I had put into working in that industry. And I just couldn't do it. But then when I lost my job, I called him and I swallowed my pride and I said, okay, I'll do it. Tell me what to do.
Teach me about that laptop millionaire stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm ready now. So he invited me to come to one of his events. So he would run some of the biggest internet marketing seminars in the UK. So I flew to the UK from Greece. I attended his seminar, and I was really mesmerized by the opportunity. And there was a speaker there that spoke about affiliate marketing on Twitter, and for some reason, that strategy, out of all the 20 different strategies that I heard of at that seminar, appealed to me. And I thought, well, affiliate marketing is basically promoting other people's products, which is fine. It sounds good to me because I don't have a product of my own, and Twitter is free to join. I was broke at the time. Surprise, surprise. And so I thought, well, I'll just do, affiliate marketing on Twitter. It seems like something I could do. And at the time, there was a software called TweetAttacks that basically, it was just automated Twitter. So it basically created accounts for you on autopilot, followed people, unfollowed people. You could upload thousands of tweets and schedule them. So it was pretty much automated. So very quickly, I had 100 Twitter accounts. They all had about 1,000 followers there. So I had in total about 100,000 Twitter followers. And I was making about $700 a week from affiliate commission. So very quickly, within 3 weeks, I had replaced the income I had lost. So I kind of got hooked like that. And so I moved on. I started building my list. So instead of promoting affiliate offers, I started capturing people's names and emails to build my list.
Nice.
And I started promoting offers via email marketing, and that went really well. And then I was put in touch with Stephen Essa. So Stephen Essa at the time was a speaker for my brother. He used to speak at my brother's seminars, and he had a webinar course. So he very successful with webinars. And so got put in touch with him. I did his course on webinars. I did my own webinar, and I sold my own product on that webinar for $997. It was called Twitter Mastery. So I was teaching people basically what I was doing, how to leverage the power of Twitter. And then I became kind of a webinar addict because I made 16 sales on my first webinar. So that was $16,000.
Nice.
So it would have taken me, it would have taken me about a year and a half working full-time in television to do that. And I did that in 90 minutes thanks to a webinar. So really the rest is history. And 9 months later, I got married to Stephen Essa, hence my name now is Corinna Essa. So that's my story in a nutshell.
So did you
A bit of a
start
romantic
doing
story as
webinars
well.
on a regular basis?
That's right. So pretty much. So now we use webinars mainly as to generate sales for the companies that we have together. We have 5 companies now, and together with my husband, and we use webinars mainly as to make sales for these companies. So 90% of the sales come from webinars for these companies.
That's a great story.
Talk to us a little bit more about webinars. I see lots of invites to webinars, and we have different channels, different mediums upon which we can communicate. You're using webinars obviously because there's some success. And your brother, was he primarily using seminars, or would he also use webinars? But it looks like there's a pattern here, collecting a group of people and presenting them with a general topic idea. And then I'm guessing there's some type of pitch or call to action at the end of the webinar. Can you tell us a little bit more about webinars in general?
Well, webinars are just very powerful. I mean, I'll sound biased here, but they're very powerful because they convert 10 times higher than a standard website. So a website, a normal standard website, converts at 1%. So the problem with that is that in order to generate sales or full-time income from the internet, you need to have a lot of traffic. And sometimes people struggle with traffic, and traffic has become expensive now, obviously, because more and more people market online. Whereas with webinars convert, a standard webinar converts at 10%. So you only need 10 people to watch your webinar in order to generate 1 sale. So it just works better. It's just cheaper. And also with webinars, you can sell high price ticket items. So you can sell, $1,000 product, a $2,000 product, $3,000 products. I mean, we have products for $15,000 that we sell on webinars, and you don't need as much traffic in order to generate that sale. So it's just a much more powerful way to make sales and high ticket sales as well. So it just works better, especially now that traffic has become more expensive and more tricky to get because you need to stand out online. And so many people now are marketing online that getting traffic cheaply like we could 10 years ago is not that easy anymore.
Sure. So what type of products are you selling on these webinars? Are they informational products? Are they courses? Are they both? Are they
It really depends what your business model is. So seminar companies, for example, what they'll do is they'll run webinars to sell tickets to their seminars. So that's pretty standard for event companies to sell seminar tickets. You can sell information products. So it works really well with information products like DVDs, courses, membership sites, etc. Because you basically, for an hour during the webinar, you give some content, you teach people about something, and then you invite them, if they want to learn more, to buy your whole course. Because there's not a lot you can share in an hour. Usually it's really tricky to share everything, a whole course or the whole content of a book in an hour. So what you do is you give them, it's almost like a teaser. It's not really a teaser because it's still an hour worth of content. So it's almost like a taste of what what you would like to share with them. And usually 10% of the people who watch the webinar want to learn more and, go further faster, and they'll buy the information product. So for information, excuse me, that's my phone. For information products, it works really, really well. Some people also sell physical products. So webinars are great. You can demonstrate how a physical product works. So you can do a demo on how something works and then sell the product itself. So really the sky's the limit what you can sell. Some people use webinars for list building. So for example, they'll invite people to opt in to watch a 1 hour training. So it's a great list building tool. So instead of giving away free reports, which is the standard thing in order to build a mailing list, you can give away a free webinar, and you don't necessarily need to sell anything on the webinar. You just use it as a lead magnet. You can do that. Something else that webinars is great for is to pre-qualify people. So let's say, for example, I don't know, you're selling real estate, and it's really important that your lead is pre-qualified. They need to be a certain age. They need to have maybe a certain amount of equity in their property or own a property or whatever it is, whatever the selection criteria is. You can use webinars to pre-qualify people. So you still run a webinar. You educate people about, let's say, real estate investing, and then you invite them to apply to buy something, for example, and you pre-qualify them like that. So you don't necessarily sell them something on the webinar, but you pre-qualify them. You make them apply or fill in an application form, etc. So you can get really creative with how you can use webinars, but webinars can be used I've seen webinars being used in all sorts of different business models. It's not just, for information marketing.
Interesting. Now, 10% versus 1%. That sounds awesome. So with that being said, why do you think that a webinar converts at such a higher rate than just a website?
Well, with websites, you see, the problem with websites is that people can click on all sorts of different things. So they can easily get distracted. They can click on the About section, then they can click on the Testimonial section, the Terms and Conditions. So there's not one specific call to action. And most of the time, people need to be educated before they buy something. So a webinar can educate people. And people are more likely to engage when they watch video than a website. People tend to engage more with video. I mean, there's so many statistics around how more powerful videos are now online. That's why everything is turning into video now. So they're just more engaging, more powerful. And also, you have to remember, you're speaking to a person for about an hour and educating them for about an hour. So you have a very engaged prospect there. And so you're giving them a lot of value. And in order for a sale to happen, whether it's online or offline, it's just an exchange of value. So if someone feels that they've received a lot of value, the law of reciprocity kicks in. Even subconsciously, they don't even realize, but it's really the law of reciprocity that kicks in. This person has just given me an hour worth of gems, really. And if they've given that for free, then imagine if I pay for whatever they're offering, how much I'll get out of it. And that's really the psychology when someone watches a webinar.
All right, so it's more like a tour guide rather than letting them loose inside your house and letting them roam around and not quite get the gist of it all. Are the webinars that you host, are they live or do you pre-record them?
Well, we do both. We found that live webinars convert better usually because the person is live. So during a live webinar, you can answer questions, and usually it's sales objections. So you can really address sales objections, sales objections on the live webinar, which is great. So someone who's wanting to buy but not too sure if it's for them, etc., or they have questions before buying, you can address them there and then. So we find that live webinars tend to convert better. But we also record our live webinars, so the people who registered but didn't attend, they still get a recording. And we found that with recorded webinars, if you send the replay, they don't tend to convert as well because people feel that, I can watch it anytime. And so they don't actually watch it. When they feel that they can watch it anytime, they end up not watching it and then forgetting about it. So what we do is we still make the replay available, but we make it available just for a few days following the live webinar. So we'll say, here's the replay, but remember that, it's only available for 48 hours or it's only available for the next 3 days. And then we pull it down. So it forces people to watch it. So that's what we do with replays. But we don't just send out replays. We run the live webinar first. We run 2 webinars during the day. We give 2 options in terms of timings. We found that just increased the attendance rate of a webinar when we say, because some people are available in the morning, some people are available in the evening. So for example, stay-at-home parents will be available in the morning when children are at school, but some people who work will be available in the evening when they come back from work. So we found that having a live webinar in the morning and a webinar in the evening tends to just make us more sales. So that's what we do. And then out of the 2 live webinars, we only release the replay of the highest converting one. So there's always one webinar that just did better for some reason. Maybe we said the right thing at the right time, etc. We addressed the right sales objection, etc. So there's always one that converts better. And so that's the replay that we send out usually. So it's also a great way to not only make it easier for people to attend the live webinar, but also to split test for which one converted better. So that's really how we make the replays work.
I like how you take down the replay. That makes sense because, if you give me the option to say you can access this whenever you want and view it at your leisure, mm-hmm. I'm not going to find the sense of urgency that I would if you said to Ken, you need to do this in the next 48 hours or it's gone forever.
That's right. It's something that people don't do, unfortunately, and they make it available. So the next time they run a live webinar, the live webinar loses its appeal because, some people might still have the replay available somewhere as well. So it allows you to, when you run your next live webinar, to make it just as appealing as the first time you ran it because it's not available anywhere else. And that's very important. That's something that people forget. Or people put their replays on a website, for example, so it's there forever. So so it loses the appeal of a live webinar when you want to run one.
Sure.
So
tell me a little bit about how you get people interested in attending, or you actually get, because I'm guessing a lot of the attendees of your webinar are new faces rather than repeat customers.
Well, funny enough, there's a lot of people who are new faces, obviously, because our mailing list keeps on replenishing itself. So of course we'll have new people, but we found that because we track everything through Infusionsoft, we found that the people who actually buy are people who attended several webinars. So sometimes for some products, it's a 2-touch or a 3-touch sale. So the sale doesn't happen the first time, it doesn't happen the second time, but it might happen the third time. And so we've noticed that with webinars, so some people have watched the webinar and attended the live webinar over and over again, and they only bought the 4th time they attended. So it's a combination really of fresh people, of course, because our list is replenished, but it's also people coming back to watch the webinar again. So maybe they weren't ready to buy at that time, or the information at that time was not really relevant to them. They were not ready. but then they're ready and they buy. It could be 3-4 months down the line. So it's really a combination of both who attend webinars.
You bring up an interesting point that you would invite someone who attended the webinar and didn't purchase back to watch the same webinar again. Because I think that a lot of people would say, well, Ken came and visited and wasn't interested. So we need to have, Ken said no, so let's move on. And you're finding that multiple touches is leading to in conversions. In what cases though, or percentage wise, when you say if you're going to close down, let's say 50 people at the end of a webinar, what percentage of those 50 people would be first time viewers versus second or third time viewers?
Well, I found that the majority, I don't know if I'm just talking about our products and it could just be our products. I don't want to generalize here, but from our experience, we found that I'd say if I had to allocate percentages, I'd say that probably the majority, let's say 60% were people who had attended other webinars and hadn't bought. And the other 40% would be fresh faces who had never attended any of our webinars. But I would say that definitely the majority of people would be people who have attended webinars before. And most people, especially for high ticket items, it's not a one-touch sale. It's you need 2 touches, 3 touches, etc. And so people need to see the offer several times, etc., in order to buy. It's not as linear as a $40 product where people have nothing to lose. They've got $40 to lose, worst case scenario. With products that we sell on webinars, usually they're $1,000 plus. People need to see it again and again and again until they buy. So it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to have people who watch webinars several times to buy after the third or the fourth time. And the good thing is that because we track everything on Infusionsoft, because with Infusionsoft, I'm not too sure if you're familiar with this system, but there's a tagging system. So every time someone performs an action, they get tagged. So for example, if someone attended the webinar, they get tagged with the webinar they attended, and they get tagged if they bought or they didn't buy, etc. So Infusionsoft allows you to do that. And so when we realized that people were buying after the third or fourth time, we continued marketing to them. I know that it's the natural instinct is, well, if they say no the first time, I won't remarket to them again, because obviously it's not for them. And that would be the normal thing to do. But then when you start tracking and seeing the source where the sales are coming from, you start adapting your marketing according to that. And so for us, we stop marketing when the person unsubscribes from our list, but not when they haven't bought. I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And we are familiar with Infusionsoft, and I find that it'd be challenging to try to facilitate all of this without that data that software provides.
Absolutely. I don't know how people do it without it. I'm only familiar with Infusionsoft, and I'm sure that there's other systems very similar that track the same thing. We stop marketing to people once they've bought, so we won't market to them again and again if they've bought. So we've got all the tagging system in place. If they're a customer already, we won't keep on marketing them the same offer, obviously. So that's extremely important. 80% of the marketing comes from the tracking. So that's really, really key. And, they say that,
sure.
If you're a good marketer, if you're a good marketer when, you've annoyed people and, you've done your job well, something like that. And I couldn't agree more. When people start complaining,
Absolutely.
You've done your job.
Exactly. So what other tools do you use? You said earlier on that in the beginning, when you were growing your Twitter following, you used something called tweet attacks.
Mm-hmm.
What type of, because I'm guessing with growing your email list, are you using a combination of social media marketing to then grow that email list, then use that email list to nurture to webinar invites? Is that kind of the flow that you're using right now?
Yeah, we use different list building tools. Initially, when I first started back in 2011, it was mainly from Twitter through tweet attacks. I don't think tweet attacks works anymore. It's no longer available as far as I know. I know that because it was pretty much spamming Twitter. Unfortunately, too many people were using it and destroyed it for everyone. Twitter suspended it, so I don't know if a new version is out. I'm not aware of that. But initially, I got a list of 3,000 people just doing that. So from my 100,000 Twitter followers, I managed to build a list of 3,000 people using tweet attacks and Twitter. And then, of course,
Awesome.
the list grew organically. So, when I send out an email, I would say, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter. So word of mouth worked really well. We run a lot of events and we do a lot of media buying. So we do a lot of Facebook advertising for list building. We do a lot of joint ventures for list building, a lot of solo ads. So we pay people to mail their list. We do a lot of that. And I do a lot of blogging. So I find that blogging works really well. So publishing a blog post every week. It's about 1,000-word blog post. So of course the blog post has calls to action for people to join and sign up to the newsletter. So we build our list like that. So it's just a combination of all that builds and replenishes the existing list.
Now let's touch a little bit about your book, Money on Demand, the 16 Fastest Ways to Becoming a Millionaire Online. Why did you write this book, and what does it cover? Who's it written for?
Well, my husband and I had a lot of success with webinars. We tried different strategies and we couldn't find a strategy to this day that worked as well as webinars for us. And there wasn't a lot written about webinars. A lot of people, of course, have courses on webinars. It's not a new concept, but there wasn't really comprehensive book on all the ways you can profit from webinars. There was courses on how to use webinars if you were an expert or if you had knowledge, etc. But what about the people who weren't experts on a topic, didn't know what to talk about on a webinar, didn't have the gift of the gab, weren't born presenters or natural presenters? What about them? And so we decided to write a book to not only help people who already had presentation skills, etc., already had products, etc., to leverage the power of webinars, but also to help people who were starting from scratch, who didn't have a website, who didn't have a product, who weren't an expert in anything. And that book also helps them basically discover all the different ways you can still profit from webinars, even if you don't want to speak on a webinar, even if you don't want to talk on a webinar, even if you don't have a product to sell. So it's really what the book covers is 16 different ways that you can profit from webinars. So you basically, every chapter is a strategy. And so you can read all of the 16 different ways that we've monetized webinars and just pick the one that fits who you are and what you want to do or what your business model is. So, just to give you an example of the different ways, there's the, we call it the show and tell method. So that's basically promoting your own product on a webinar. We've got the JV and partnership webinar model where you basically promote someone else's webinar for 50 share of the profits. You've got also a method is called the lazy money method, which is basically how to profit from webinar replays. Then there's the paid webinar method. So that's also where you record a webinar and you charge for the webinar. So the webinar itself becomes a product. So you don't sell anything on the webinar, but the webinar is what you sell. So there's so many different ways. There's 16 different ways, and each chapter basically dedicates is dedicated to a strategy. And there's at the end of each chapter there's a case study. So we show how a specific person implemented that specific strategy and the outcome of it. So that's really how the book is structured.
I like it because it covers so many different types of readers and their personalities. You made an interesting point, I think, earlier in our conversation, when in 2011 you found yourself looking at, what am I going to do? And you contacted your brother, but I think you said you felt like you weren't qualified to run an internet business. And I can see a lot of our listeners say, webinar sounds fantastic. I'd love to have a webinar, conduct a webinar, but I don't feel like I'm qualified, or I don't have the comfort level. So it sounds like the book will have something for everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, even for B2B companies who are wondering how to scale using webinars, there's a whole chapter dedicated at B2B companies, and with a case study on a lady called Karen Bonanno, and how she basically used webinars in her B2B company to scale her business. So the sky is really the limit with what you can do with webinars. And I think it filled a gap. There was a big gap in our industry when it came to webinars. People thought that basically you have to be a speaker, you have to have a presentation, and it's just a question of having basically your speech in a webinar format, and that's it. And if you're not that, then you can't use webinars. And it's a huge misconception.
That's great.
Yes, that I'm sure it's going to sound very comforting to a lot of our listeners, which is fantastic, because all the advantages of a webinar that you've explained is, I guess you really leave no excuses why not to have a webinar, because your book is the blueprint for anyone and everyone. And I think you spent the beginning of the conversation explaining how advantageous it can be. So it sounds like we'll have lots of success stories from listeners about their webinars per your advice.
Absolutely, and looking forward to hearing all these success stories. We have had, as a result of the book launch, we have had a lot of success stories coming in, and it's I think it's been really rewarding for us. That for us, it really shows that our efforts have paid, really, because for us the biggest reward is knowing that people not only enjoy the book and not just they don't just agree with us intellectually the book is good content, but they actually go ahead and implement it and tell us all about it.
Yes, taking action. That's something that we all read a lot, and we digest lots of information, but actually taking action from it is spectacular to see. Now, where's the best place that someone could purchase your book?
Well, Amazon is at the moment where it's available. So just Amazon.com, type in money on demand, and you'll find the book there. It will be shipped usually wherever you are in the world. There shouldn't be a problem with that. It will be soon available in the bookstores in the US from September onwards. So it will definitely be available in bookstores. We've got a publisher in the US and also a publisher in Australia. So it will be available in the bookstores very soon. But in the meantime, it's Amazon.
And we'll include a link to your book on Amazon in the show notes for everyone to access as well. So tell me a little bit about social media worldwide. This is your business, different from the book. And I think the webinars, you have that strategy tied into this a little bit, but could you tell us a little bit about social media worldwide, what it is and what you do and who you do it for and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, well, when I first started on the internet, as I said, I put together my own product called Twitter Mastery, and I started selling an information product on how to leverage Twitter for marketing. And I realized that there was a gap. There was a gap in the market, that a lot of people either didn't have time to implement what I was teaching, or didn't have the skill, or didn't have the patience for it, because it is pretty time consuming to market on social media if you want to do it effectively. It's not a set and forget kind of thing. And so I had a lot of people, I had no intention of creating a social media agency, which is what Social Media Worldwide is. I had no intention of doing that. I just had people come to me and ask me if I could if I had a done for you service, basically what I taught in my Twitter mastery course, I could actually do it for them for a fee. So I started taking on a few clients. And then people from word of mouth would say, do you also do Facebook? So I started also helping people with their Facebook marketing, providing done for you services for them. And it just grew organically from there. I had no intention whatsoever of having an agency. At the time, I didn't even know what an agency was. And it just grew like that. And then, of course, the Google Plus came in, and then there was Instagram, and I started having all these clients. And I all of a sudden, I found myself working 16 hours a day, just doing all the social media marketing for these people. And so I was at the point of burnout because I was working on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I mean, I was working all the time, and I was like, I thought that having an internet business was all about freedom, and I've never worked so hard. So it was just that breaking point, and so I hired someone part-time, and very quickly that person got really busy, so that person became full-time, and so that person needed help, so that person hired someone else, and we're now I think we're about 11 members of staff at the moment. And so it's just a company that grew organically, initially from word of mouth, from the initial customers I got buying my course, and I kind of stopped selling courses because I just noticed that although the profit margins are amazing when you sell a course, I mean there's no cost of delivering anything, but I just realized that people really what they want is someone to do it for them. They just don't have the time or the skill, the patience for it. And so I replaced selling the course with selling the done for you service. And now on webinars, I sell the done for you service instead of the course. And so I just found that that's really what people wanted more than learning how to do it. What really people wanted is someone to do it for them. And a lot of businesses that we have, they're small businesses, so they don't have the budget to have someone full-time in-house, because it can cost from $4,000 a month to maybe $8,000 a month to have a full-time social media manager in-house. And so we're the next best thing from having someone in-house. So that's really what Social Media Worldwide is about.
That's an interesting story, how you developed that out of a need you noticed by listening to your customers. I love that.
That's right. And a lot of people, when they talk about business ideas, they say, oh, did you write a business plan? And how did you write your business plan? And I don't really believe in business plans. It's just a terrible thing to say. But I find that the customers tell you what they want, what they need, not the other way around. So you can plan all day long, but usually nothing goes according to plan. Every time I've planned something, nothing has gone according to plan. So I said, okay, forget about that. I'll just let the market tell me. I mean, your bank account tells you what you should do and shouldn't do. There's some things that don't bring in revenue and some things that do, and just keep on doing what brings you revenue. I mean, Infusionsoft will tell you, what to do. You can track everything. Some things don't work, some things work, and just keep on doing what works rather than planning ahead, because there's so many things that happen unexpectedly. The online world is something that changes all the time. There's new social media platforms that you can't even predict, you can't even see coming. New things happening. I mean, I know with social media now, there's a few years ago, you could do a lot of things organically. Now, there's not a lot of things you can do without paying for advertising on social networks. So things keep on changing all the time. So it's really hard to forecast 10 years ahead what your business is going to look like, because really no one knows.
Absolutely.
So
and you
true.
bring up a really interesting point about the changing landscape of social media, because it has evolved so quickly. You think back, it wasn't that long ago that we didn't have social media. Now we do. And just the progression of, let's just say, Facebook, and how you used to be able to get information in front of those that followed you as a business much easier than you can today at much lower cost. Where do you see the biggest opportunities right now in social media? Where do you see coming down the lines in the future? And how do you go about managing the ever changing landscape?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really tricky for us being a social media agency. We really have to be ahead of all the changes, always knowing what's happening. The new changes, etc. What I see happening now, I mean, it's no secret. It's becoming pay to play. If you don't have an advertising budget on social networks, it's really hard to achieve anything organically. I mean, Facebook's organic reach, it's next to zero. If you post something, no one, no matter how many fans you have, hardly anyone will see your posts, unless you pay for it, unless you promote your posts. That's a big thing. So I think that um, if you don't have an advertising budget, don't don't waste your time on social media because you'll be left behind. You're competing with people who do. So that's one thing. Also, videos taking over. So of course, Facebook and Instagram, they introduce a lot of video features like live videos, Instagram stories, etc. So they're putting a lot of money into video infrastructure. So definitely include some form of video marketing in your marketing plan because video is going to play a major role when it comes to marketing on the internet and on social media. So I would say paid advertising definitely and video. Video is basically going to take over, and they're actually rewarding people um, who use videos and who publish videos on social media. They give them more organic reach. So if if you feel that you're not reaching enough people through your posts, including videos, it will definitely improve your organic reach.
Now, video is something I think is on everyone's radar. They really have their ears perked up. They understand. I mean, they see it. If you look at any Facebook feed or Twitter feed or Instagram, videos becoming a higher percentage of that feed than ever before. When I talk to lots of business owners about social, their biggest hurdle is the production of that video, getting the video content
Mhm.
created in order to share. Does social media worldwide, do you guys create video for your clients? Do you have them shoot their own video organically at their site and they send it to you? Is it a combination of both? Does it depend on the structure they work with you? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely produce videos for our clients. It depends what type of video, if they're going to be front of camera or not. In that case, we need them to shoot a video of themselves. If it's just PowerPoint with or images with narration and background music, we'll do that for them. So it really depends on the format of the video. But you said something interesting. You said that a lot of people, the biggest hurdle is the production of a video, and what we found is that the less polished a video is, the more amateur looking it is, the more views. So people will tend to lower their guards when they see a video that looks like amateurish kind of amateurish because they feel that it's less salesy.
Sure.
Whereas when they see a really
That's a good point.
polished video with graphics and special effects, etc., they don't get as much engagement, these videos. So when people come to me and say, producing high quality videos can be a bit tricky, etc., that shouldn't be a problem. In fact, because the more natural your video looks, the better it converts. In fact, the more viewers it attracts because people feel that, oh, it's just a casual message that this person has for me. They're not trying to sell me anything. Or that's why live videos, Facebook Live works so well because usually they're shot on a phone camera. There's no tripod, there's no special effects, etc., and they tend to work really really well. So now anyone can really produce engaging videos. All you need is your phone, which everyone has, and you can end up producing a really good converting video just with your phone. What is important is the sound. So what can be off-putting for people is bad quality sound. more than bad quality images. People can overcome bad quality images, but they don't like bad quality sound. So you have to make sure that there's no background noise when you record your video. Maybe you have a microphone that works well. So the sound is more important than the visuals, and people think that's the other way around. The visual is more important, and also it's what the content of the video is important. People spend too much attention to what it looks like rather than what you're actually saying to people. It should provide value. It should create an aha moment for people. So you should be revealing something of value to them so they keep engaged. I see too many people just record videos of themselves saying nothing or just fluff, really, or repeating themselves. There's no structure to the video. There's nothing shared that's interesting, and that can be quite off-putting. So I would tell people, don't focus so much on the quality of the production. Definitely have good sound, because that, of course, is very important, but also think about what you're going to say. And why you're going to say what you're going to say, and always have a strong call to action. There's no point in having a video out there that has no call to action. Every piece of content out there should include a call to action. It doesn't necessarily need to be, buy my stuff now, but it could be something such as, subscribe to my YouTube channel, something that's I call it a low commitment call to action. It could be anything, as long as you have a call to action. You need to train your audience to act as a result of seeing a piece of your content. So sometimes videos that don't have a strong call to action, they kind of fall flat. Whereas having a call to action, it allows you to end the video strongly.
Awesome advice. And it's interesting that you make that comment about the raw footage or the less polished video getting more views, because I think it's really accurate that we are less guarded and more likely to engage in that type of video, because we don't feel like it's got this smoke and mirror salesy approach to it that might trick us into something. We're so cautious as consumers or viewers of videos that we don't want to potentially be led into something that we didn't intend on being led into. So I like that idea, especially since it's more inviting to those, because professional video production, and there are some excellent video production companies out there that do some amazing work, comes at a cost. And that drastically changes how much video you can produce and how often you can push that out. So great advice. What are you working on now? What has you really excited about the current, present, or what's coming down the line in the near future?
Well, usually once a year, and we're at this stage of the year at the moment in our businesses, we look at what worked well, what didn't work so well. So we're at the stage where we're looking at everything and streamlining a few things and planning ahead what we're going to do more of and less of. So that's where we're at, and this is the time of the year we actually do that. So we're getting really excited about the big wins this year and how to scale these, and some of the losses, of course, because if you have wins you have losses. Some of the losses, and instead of dwelling on them, just making sure that we don't do that again, or we replace it with something else that worked better. So that's really where we're at the moment, just streamlining and scaling.
Awesome.
Love it. Plan ahead and review what's working well. Good stuff. Hey, what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you? Should they go to your website?
There's our YouTube channel, so youtube.com/social media worldwide. So there's about 100 training videos on social media marketing there. So that's youtube.com/social media worldwide for people who want to learn more about social media marketing.
Beautiful. All right. We will include that in the show notes. Corinna, before we say goodbye today, if you had one piece of parting advice for our listening audience, what would that be?
I tell them that consistency is key. So whatever you're doing, you have to do it consistently. When it's social media, do social media marketing consistently. It's not a one-off thing. If you're going to have a social media account, post daily, consistently, etc. If you're going to blog, do it consistently. You won't get rich from one blog post or two blog posts. So do it consistently, because I found that whatever I've done, I've made the most returns when I did it consistently. So that's one piece of advice. And also that on the internet, it's all about providing value. So if you're not making the money or the revenue you'd like to make, just look at how much value you're providing, because really your income is in direct proportion of the value you provide. So the more value you provide, the more money you make. And that's what I learned. And so just apply the 80-20 rule, 80% value, 20% selling. And that's the rule I implement with everything. 80% of my time spent on a webinar is about providing value and teaching people things, and then 20% of it is selling. When I send out an email, I make sure that 80% of the emails I send out is value, 20% I'm selling. So the 80-20 rule is also key. So consistency and providing more value and applying the 80-20 rule. That's really my piece of advice.
Beautiful. Awesome advice. We talk about the providing value a lot on here. So 80-20 rule, 80% value, 20% selling. Great stuff, Corinna. All right, Neon Noise Nation, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Corinna. Be sure to go over and check out her website at www.socialmediaworldwide.com. You can purchase her book on Amazon.com by simply typing in Money on Demand. Go check that out. Corinna, thanks so much for being on the show today. A ton of great value. We appreciate you coming on and really enjoyed the conversation with you today. The show notes for today will be available at neongoldfish.com/podcast. Until next time, this is Justin, Ken, and Corinna signing off. Neon Noise Nation, we will see you again next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Neon Noise Podcast. Did you enjoy the podcast? If so, please subscribe, share with a friend, or write a review. We want to cover the topics you want to hear. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like Justin and Ken to cover, connect with us on Twitter at Neon Goldfish or through our website at neongoldfish.com.